beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Today, by special request, we're going to discuss how to develop a sound savings plan. Yes, how many times have you started a savings plan? You put something into your account consistently for 2-3 months, and then at some point you went and decided there was something important that you wanted to do or needed that money for, and you raided the entire account and never really was able to establish a solid plan after that. Not good. So in any savings plan or strategy, the two most important ingredients are planning and discipline. So I have a 4-step process, but what you have to bring to the table is that planning, which I'm going to help you with and walk you through. And then the discipline piece, that's all up to you. So I know there's a lot of distractions out here to wonder that you're interested in savings at all. I know it's hard. You know, a lot of times we get caught up in who has the biggest house, the fastest car, the fattest ass, the flyest bag, the tightest body. I mean, it's exhausting. Then you have so much coming at you with the music, the sex, the drugs, the news media, the social media. You know, who has time to focus on savings? You do. All these things that we tend to devote our attention to, they're not as important as we think they are. You may think they're important, but they're really not. And they're doing nothing to help you in your financial health and well-being. So we need to kind of change that and put some other things in our focus and attention so that we can really become more financially healthy and more financially sound. The strategy that I've come up with is a 4-step process. It sounds simple because it's 4 steps, but it's really not that easy. And so here are the 4 steps. Assess, plan, open a savings account, and then execute. All right. Now, the first step is by far the most important step. If you really skimp on the assessment part, then your entire savings plan is going to fall apart. All right, so the assessment, what does that involve? It's a self-assessment. If I were to ask you, which I'm about to ask you, what does it cost to run your household monthly? How much does it cost you? Can you answer that question? If you can answer that question and you're correct about it, then you are already ahead of the game. If you can't answer that question and you really have to think and you're not sure, you're in the right place. So it's very important to know how much money you have going out. Where are you spending your money? Where is it going every month, every day, every week? If you were to ask me that question, I can tell you right off the rip, it costs me $4,000 to run my household. That includes my mortgage, my car note, insurance, food, utilities. I've even thrown in there what it costs to, get my hair done, get my nails done, makeup, all the little things that I like to do. So $4,000 is my number. And then from there, I can continue to plan around that. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. So what's your number? So in order to get there, I'm going to need you to really sit back and evaluate your spending. And you can track yourself. I want you to track yourself for a week or a month. The longer you can track yourself, the better. If you kind of have an idea of where your money is going, maybe you only need a week. But if you really have no clue, you need to assess yourself and track your spending for an entire month. Write it down, get a journal and just write down every day, every week. You can't wait until the month is up to do it because that's not going to work. I would suggest every day or no less than every week. Journal your spending. Where's your money going? Besides the bills, the bills, which you should know off the rip how much it costs to run your household with all of your bills. If you don't know, you should know. So get on that. But there are other little pockets of spending that sometimes we don't tend to track and don't think that it matters, but it really does, especially when you're trying to develop a savings plan. Some of those pockets can be, what you're spending on dining out. We know you go grocery shopping, but then on top of that, some of us like to, go out for lunch. Buy that cup of coffee or a cup of cappuccino. So what are you spending on dining out? What are you spending on the children? Once you've completed your assessment, the next step is going to be to plan. All right. And so this is where we start to get into the meat of the saving strategy, because now I know where I am. I know what my spending habits are. I know where my money is going. I have an idea of how I'm spending it. I may or may not be spending it in the best way. So now let me plan the spending so that I can really be on top of my income, my inflow, and my outflows. So this is where the plan comes in. So next step is to develop a budget. So that's part of your planning. We're going to sit back and develop a budget. So the income, what you have coming into your household, should be easy to track. Most of us have somewhere between 1 and 3 sources of income. It's maybe your full-time job, a part-time job, child support, whatever. So track your income. And for those who have full-time jobs, W-2 jobs, you want that income after taxes. That's what's going to go into your budget, because that's how you're using or spending your money. You're spending after tax dollars. So make that a part of your budget. Now, the harder part is going to be the expense side, the money that's going out the door. Now that you've done your assessment, you have a clear idea of how you're spending the money. You may be spending it right. And so the expense side should come easy for you. And if you're not now in this planning phase in terms of developing a budget, this is where you can tweak your behavior in terms of your spending. And so we're going to do a budget for the month. So your income for the month and your expenses for the month. And so this is the slide that we're showing here is going to give you an idea of what to include in terms of your monthly expenses. So you want everything, your rent, your mortgage, your car insurance, how much you're spending on gas, your car notes, utilities, whatever you're spending on hair, sort of all the things that you've assessed yourself in the first step. That's going to be a part of your budget. Now, when you finish the income versus the expenses, hopefully you're going to have a positive balance, which means you're bringing in more money than you are spending, right? That way you definitely know that you can save. You're in a position to save. But if you are not bringing in more money than you're spending, then you have some work to do. You need to dial back on some of your expenses. And by the way, if you need help with the budget, if you need a budget template, I am offering this to you. I can email it to you. See my comments below. In the comment section below, I will include my email address if you want a copy of this budget template. But you can also just write this stuff down in your journal, or use your phone. A lot of phones have different apps on them now to help you with a monthly budget. But in any event, I have the tools for you if you want them. How much are you spending on gifts? How much money are you loaning out? I mean, just really track all of your spending. That's going to be a full assessment. In any budget, you definitely want the basics. You want your household utility, your household, the rent, shelter, right? Mortgage, rent, whatever, your utilities, transportation, because you have to get back and forth to work, however you do that, whether it's MARTA or public transportation that you use, or your card note, which would include your card note, your insurance, and how much it costs to keep your car gassed up monthly. And then also food, grocery shopping. That's what we're talking about there. If you're dining out, you want to make sure you include that as well. But it's definitely not a necessity that you want to include as your basic or your core budget. So you develop your budget, you went back, you've tweaked it, you've cut some things out, and you really want to keep the budget realistic. What can you really afford to cut out if that's the position that you're in? If you've developed your budget and you see that your expenses are way higher than your income, then you definitely need to cut back, because there's no way that you can save in a position like that. It's never going to work. So dial back on the expenses and keep it realistic to what you can possibly do. If your expenses still aren't less than your income, then you have to figure out a way to increase your income. If you have a high car note, maybe consider refinancing. If you have high rent, maybe consider moving. But you cannot save if your expenses are higher than your income, because basically you are living beyond your means, and you're probably relying on credit cards and all other kinds of debt financing to keep you afloat. You can never save under those conditions. All right. So after you've cut back, you've assessed, you've planned, you've gotten your budget to where you need it to be, and you definitely have some cushion in your budget, which means your income is higher than your expenses. You have a little bit more room to play. Well, not actually play, because these are the dollars that we're going to allocate to a savings plan. So the last line that I want you to include in your budget is a line item for savings. So under your expenses, one line for savings. And then again, based on your individual situation, come up with a number that you can save, an amount that you can save monthly, whether it's, allocating $25 per paycheck or $50 per paycheck into a savings account. Put that on your monthly budget, and then that's what you'll plan to budget for savings. That'll be your savings. All right, if you have a savings goal that you're trying to reach over, the next year, the next 6 months, then you can back into the amount that you want on that savings line. But the key is you have to make it work for you. It has to be affordable for you, and you have to be able to maintain it. What I don't want you to do is start saving, and then you come up with a crisis because why? You didn't plan properly. That budget that you put together didn't accommodate or include something that you probably should have. And so now you have to raid your savings account. We don't want that. That's not going to be helpful for you. Now, the purpose of savings is to build a cushion and to, have some emergency funds available in the event of a crisis. But some of the crises that we tend to have are self-made or could have been avoided. But in any event, let's try to make the savings plan workable and affordable to you. All right. So now, where are we in the process? We have assessed, we've planned. Part of that planning, we've included a savings line item. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and start doing some research on where to open your savings account. So maybe you have a relationship with a bank currently that you use that you just want to go ahead and open a savings account with them. If you're a part of a credit union, you may want to look into them. But for me, or my recommendation is that you find a bank that has a savings account with a very good rate, right? Because you want to get the most bang for your buck in terms of the savings. So some bank that has a great interest rate is where you want to put your money. Also, when you do open that savings account, you want to make sure that they are able to deduct the savings, the funds that you want to go to that account automatically. Because I want you to put your savings on autopilot so you don't have to think about it. Whether you have the savings come directly from your paycheck to that savings account, or you may want to have it come out of your checking account directly to that savings account. But whatever you do, whatever amount you're deciding to fund to that savings account, whether it's monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, put it on autopilot. So that way you can set it and forget it. All right. And hopefully not have to touch that money for a very long time. Also, bankrate.com, that's another resource that you can use in order to look up different savings accounts, savings rates, and determine which one's going to work for you. Capital One 360, they have a great savings online banking with a great savings account with good rates. There's also Ally Bank and EverBank. All right. And then the last part of the step, the 4-step process, is going to be execute. Execution is key. But planning, we've talked through the planning. Hopefully, as part of your assessment, you've done it correctly. You've really took in everything. Consider all of your expenses. Part of the planning, you really cut out what you don't need. Your income is higher than your expenses. If you've gotten all that in place, the execution is going to be fairly easy. But you have to be disciplined. You have to keep it going. You have to not raid your account, especially for frivolous things. That's it. Those are that's the 4-step process. That's my message for you today, and good luck in your savings endeavors. Until next time.